Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Mary Rowling, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I hope everyone's start to their Thursday is going well, and I'm sure everyone's ready for the holidays. We really appreciate you taking some time to spend with us on this very intriguing topic. We're seeing chatbots more and more as we move closer into 2019, and they're only going to increase as this technology evolves. We're excited to be talking to you today about how to implement a conversational strategy into your chatbot. So real quick, just a little bit about who we are and what we do. We here at we are Empiger Technologies. We have been in business for 15 years and develop custom IT services. So we've done built over 500 mobile and web applications. We built cloud applications as well. We utilize the latest technologies like IoT, RPA, AI, NLP. On the chatbot side, we've created over 50 chatbots to date since launching our solution earlier this year. So if you have any questions or would like to learn more about our company, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to help. So for today, we have two speakers. Oh, sorry, too fast. We have two speakers, Travis, our Chatbot Solutions Consultant, and Gopi, our Chief Product Officer, who will be speaking later in the presentation. One last thing before we get started, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down in the QA section in the WebEx panel. We'll be answering all questions at the end of the presentation. So with that, I will pass it on to Travis and we'll get started.
Thanks, Mary. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. So today's agenda is going to be focusing on two areas, on copy etiquette and NLP. So writing copy for bots and ensuring those bots can understand the nuances of human language create a great experience for all parties involved. As a wise person once said, you're never just building a bot so much as launching a conversational strategy, one that's constantly evolving and being optimized based on how users are actually interacting with it. So what is a chatbot? Simply put, a chatbot is a computer program that simulates conversation with people. Through the ages, they've been called virtual assistants, conversational agents, virtual humans. Chatbots date way back to the 1950s with the Turing test, and the first one ever built was in 1966. Broken down into its individual components, a modern chatbot is made up of 4 parts: the natural language processor, the dialogue manager, the content itself, and a custom integrations or external data that goes with it. So why do chatbots exist? Are they just novelty items? Sometimes. But the usefulness of chatbots extends across a variety of areas. In this infographic, you can see some of the top benefits people get when interacting with a chatbot. Chatbot benefits impact 2 different sides: the employee, or the human labor, and the user, or the customer side. So, for example, sometimes a user may have a question about a product from an e-commerce store. A chatbot can answer that question at any hour, even at 2 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday. From a business point of view, hiring a live human to work that hour could not be very beneficial because the call volume might be very low. As of 2014, messaging apps overtook traditional apps. Over 2 million people are using messaging apps. Now that's equivalent to 37% of the world's population. That's huge, and it's still growing. The conversational commerce is giving businesses the ability to communicate with each customer in a private, personalized, and 2-way environment. We now live in an age of instant gratification. Everything is real time, and both younger audiences and businesses want immediate feedback. There's a key difference between chatbots and email: talking versus telling. Chatbots are an easy, affordable way to have a conversation with customers. Email, on the other hand, is telling those would-be customers what they should know and believe. Often, it's information overload, giving all the options, and doesn't really offer the chance to filter those individual pain points. Tell me how many times you picked up the phone for customer service or had to pay your bill and you get put on hold listening to the dreaded elevator music for 10, 15, 20 minutes? Call centers are notoriously known for their volume, usually understaffed. Now, chatbots are solving that phone problem with those immediate responses and offloading the simple questions. Chatbots, we know, are becoming increasingly complex as engineers try to replicate human conversations. In the past, there may have been simple question-answer responses, but they continue to evolve and interact with their human counterparts. One day, they may even predict questions in advance. Heck, the technology is already pushing to read minds. However, chatbots fail for a variety of reasons, and today we're going to discuss some of those in this presentation. But the bottom line up front is that when chatbots fail, businesses are losing customers. In my days, I've seen some really poor chatbot designs. Sometimes it feels like I'm reading a monologue rather than joining an actual conversation. Other times, the chatbot simply can't understand the nuances of basic human speech. It can be incredibly frustrating to work with bad chatbots. So today we're going to talk about chatbot etiquette, writing copy that makes sense. A friend of mine recently asked, what does it matter what a chatbot says as long as it's functionally doing and solving the problem that a user has? And this is perhaps one of the strongest objections you will have when writing for chatbots. All I need to do is get the chatbot to take me from point A to point B. My counter-argument to that is this. Successful chatbots provide a carefully constructed messaging journey, one that engages your audience. The key word here is engagement. More to the point, you need to differentiate your bot from the 300,000+ chatbots already on the market today. And you do that through your brand story. Now, you will want to keep your chatbot as human as possible by avoiding those canned responses that are very robotic. When my team was working on our chatbot, one of the top challenges we found was finding a way to keep the dialogue as natural as possible. Your consumers know it's a bot, but a genuine conversation is still a key component to having a good customer experience. So my objective today for y'all, what I hope you'll get out of the session are better bots that are going to delight and excite your customers. Bots that solve their problems and bring value to their lives. The next couple of slides are going to be examples of bot copy that I want you to scrutinize and decide what's more engaging for the reader. Blue is going to be joining us today, and Blue is built on our bluefish.ai technology. So there's a lot of different styles of writing. There's blogs, technical papers, copywriting, but today we're going to address chatbot writing specifically. While this isn't the be-all, end-all, having a set of guidelines will greatly enhance your user experience. So let's start by highlighting some general points of style for your bot. First, begin with simple words and short sentences. Avoid long, drawn-out paragraphs. Secondly, avoid jargon and slang. Use terminology that's easy to understand. In chatbot copy, simplicity is a good thing. The copy in the left image uses way too many words and just creates what we call in the marketing world, fluff. When it comes to writing for conversation, keep in mind the flow of dialogue. It should be a dance where each party gets his or her say. Good copy aims for a one-to-one flow. In the case of the left bot, we get to sit through a rather busy monologue. We're better off reading a book. From my experience in chatbot creation, the rule of thumb is to never go above 3-to-1 ratio. Good bots are dynamic and adaptable. Be sure to mix up your pleasantries with new greetings each time a visitor arrives. Don't be a static tool. Be a dynamic rock star. Stock answers are those generic answers that fit into everyday conversation. How many times do you get the question, how was work, college, or school? Sometimes you are too tired from the day and simply answer with an okay, and it's a perfectly acceptable answer. Nobody's going to push you into detail on how your day went. As you write your bot copy, think about how those questions can be easily summed up with stock answers. When it comes to engagement and empathy, there's no better grammar than a good old interjection. Your interjection is a part of speech that shows the emotion or feeling of the chatbot. Those words or phrases can stand alone or be placed before or after a sentence. Your interjections are usually going to be followed by punctuation marks, like an exclamation point. So let's break down the opening of a conversation. Here's a couple things to keep in mind. Start by greeting the user, letting them know they're chatting with a bot, explaining the context of the chat, and give them clear next steps to move the conversation forward. And finally, acknowledge the time of day as a nice touch. Hi there, I'm Chatbot Blue, here to answer questions about chatbots and Piker. Let me know how I can help you today. That initial greeting your chatbot responds is the perfect time to set a tone for the personality and also to impress your readers. When you're recognizing returning users, you're skipping those formalities. Successful conversational chatbots should be able to understand, remember, and analyze all of those inputs and preferences from previous encounters and answer with personalization. Train your bot to remember those returning users. When it comes to engagement and processing requests and information, driving forward status reports is a key component of good chatbot behavior. Be sure to reference requests and reassure the user that the bot is processing their action. A good way to interject some personality is providing education or entertainment related to the request. In the example, a user is looking for cafes and the bot shares coffee facts. How's that for value? But it's also very important to not overdo it. Not every field of data needs a status report. Otherwise, you'll just clog the user. Remember when you were deleting files on your computer and that File Explorer prompts you with, "Are you sure you want to delete this every time?" People like checkups, but not constant checkups, if that makes sense. Asking for more information drives conversation towards the best possible answer for a user. A chatbot stores a lot of data and a lot of different things. When the bot collects information from the user, it's able to filter through that data and provide relevant responses. When it comes to collecting information for lead generation, whether it be a registration for a webinar or an online job application, it's very important for you to state why you are asking for their personal information. Why is Blue asking the user for his or her department? So Blue can give the best possible answer. Always try and ask that all-important question, why? Make collecting information easy with simple, straightforward navigations. Provide your users with clear directions to perform any action. By doing this, you're reducing the time the users have to spend, and you help them make faster decisions with less hassle. Always present buttons or drop-down menus if it's not an empty, open-ended question. Make it easy for the users. And nobody's perfect. It's a fact of life that humans make mistakes, and sometimes so do bots. But how we admit defeat or confusion is very important here. Statements like, "Sorry, I'm a bot, and I'm still learning. Can you rephrase that?" Or, "Whoops, I didn't quite understand. Do you mind trying again?" Both these statements can really empathize with users and be a human when they're angry or upset, and it's the best way to earn their trust. So create those compelling messages for queries that your bot cannot answer. Speaking of those unresolved answers, there's a little trick that I recommend, and it's called the alternate solution. A good acronym to use in conflict resolution is ACT or ACT. Apologize, correct, and think. In the left bot, Blue is saying it's sorry and offers a PS4, which is similar to the query the user asked for. After the problem is resolved, Blue thanks the user. One way you can think of bot language is the difference between fast food and restaurants. In fast food, it's a get in, get out mentality. But at a restaurant, you are there for the experience. A waiter smiles and suggests options on the menu, accommodates for special needs like children, for instance, and often does very elaborate activities like opening a wine bottle and pouring your glass at the table. Good bots are good waiters. At the end of the conversation, we can go ahead and break the sign-off into two parts. You can acknowledge the time of day, use professional and delightful salutations, and respond when the users say goodbye. Great chatting with you. Come back again soon. Thanks for the chat. Visit me again sometime. Always make sure you're leaving the conversation on a positive note. In storytelling, how a conversation begins and ends is what audience members are going to remember best. A positive sign-off is going to convince the user to visit your website again. On the subject of emojis, they're a little touchy, but when they're used right, they add an immense amount of personality to your bot. The top 3 tips for emojis I have are basically use them sparingly and don't overwhelm the screen. Know that your audience is, maybe kissy faces work well for dating bots, but not for a hiring bot. And make sure you stick with those positive, safe, and inclusive emojis. Not everybody drinks alcohol or celebrates Christmas. Emojis, smiles, or emoticons all show your bot's intent, moods, feelings, and interests with just one character. Those small pictographs offer a universal simplicity in communication and improve the user experience. GIFs, much like emojis, can really lighten the mood. They're playful and engaging, but GIFs can be tricky too because they're often based on cultural references not all people are going to understand. And the kind of GIF you use also depends on the industry or geography it's being used. The good news is GIFs are being accepted in mainstream society more than ever nowadays. Just make sure that you're using it sparingly. And finally, my favorite part, a good chatbot will anticipate some of the most wild questions that people can come up with. This is a great opportunity to write some really entertaining copy. One thing you can do is try and redirect the user back to the relevant copy that your bot is an expert in. But have fun with this part, because anybody who asks questions like, "Will you marry me?" they're trying to have fun themselves. So we've spoken on how we can write a chatbot conversation, but let's jump on the other side of the conversational strategy, one that's constantly being evolved and optimized based on how the users are interacting with the bot. Empiger's Chief Product Officer, Gopi, is going to be sharing the wonderful work of natural language processing, or NLP, with us.
Thank you, Travis, for a great start. Hey all, good morning. I'm Gopinath, Chief Product Officer of Empiger Technologies. I'm going to talk about in the next 30 minutes of all about the natural language processing and what are all the various elements of natural language processing, how these chatbots really work. So let me just give a very quick definition of natural language processing. Right? Natural language processing, it is the ability of a computer program to understand human language, which is spoken, and it is the component of AI. To just put it in a little bit of a simpler way, NLP is part of the computer science and AI, which deals with the human language. So what this NLP really means is all about. Now, the machines interpret the most important elements of human language sentence that might correspond to specific features in a data sets and returns an answer for those data sets. So everything lies with the data. That's where the basic of the NLP stands for. Now, let me also take you to further information of how these chatbots are working and how these chatbots can learn. So these are not going to be the theoretical session like NLP session that I told you. These are going to be the practical explanation of how these chatbots really work and what are the jargons behind these chatbots really. I'm just giving you 2 examples. One is a concert, and another one is the banking transaction. So let's say, for example, as I told you back on the NLP, it understands the computer language and gives in a meaningful computer understandable language. So if the user is intended to say, hey, at what time the doors are open, let's say for example. So here, now the computer language has to be transformed into a machine understandable language, and the NLP has to process this language. So the bot is going to respond back in the FAQ knowledge base. Basically, it will come back and tell hey, the doors are open at 8 o'clock. Don't be late. Very simple. And in terms of making it a little bit more intelligent, a little bit more information, the chatbot can also give additional information of the show time, show tickets, and etc. to improvise the customer experience. This is one way of expressing the conversation. So you ask a question and bot responds back with an answer intelligently. Now I'm going to further go depth of understanding much more intelligently how this is really going to be possible. In this chatbot world, we have various jargons that we typically use, something called as intents, entities, and utterances, which I'm going to go in detail in the subsequent slides. However, I'm going to go further detail about this NLP and what is this entity recognition and what is this intent classification and all those details as well right now. As I told you before, NLP really stands for the natural language processing. And technically speaking, this NLP has got two main components of it. One is where we call as NLU and NLG. NLU is something called as natural language understanding, and NLG is natural language generation. Let me just further detail out what does it mean by NLU. NLU basically is natural language understanding. It maps the given input in natural language into a usable representation, and also it analyzes the different aspects of the languages. That is what we call as NLU. Basically, it understands, and natural language generation is the second part, which we call as NLG. It is the process of producing meaningful phrases and sentences in the form of a natural language from the same internal representation. Basically, it involves text planning, sentence planning, text realization, etc. So this might sound kind of technical, but I'm not going to go much technical beyond this NLP and NLU. But however, I'm going to take you to a further good journey of the chatbot jargons and what these chatbots are being classified and how this is intelligently able to respond back. As I told you earlier, there are three main things that are there. One is intents, utterances, and entities. Utterances is the way that you ask any set of a question, a human way of asking a question. So here the example is, show me movies in AMC theaters. If you really look at it, there are various ways I can ask the same sentence. Show me movies in AMC theaters, or just show me movies in my nearby AMC theaters, or you can also ask me, list me the movies in AMC theaters. So you can ask various ways of asking the questions. These kind of set of questions we call as utterances. However, if you look at the basic intent of this utterances is showing a movie. So showing a movie is a user's intent, and there are various ways of asking is called as utterances. What is this entity is all about? Entity is very simple. It goes further details of the utterances of classifying a specific unit where we call as movies and theaters or entities. I will just give you the same example of showing the movie. So as I told you before, utterances, I can ask various ways of asking the questions. I have to train the bot with various set of asking questions like show me the movies in AMC theaters, or list me the movies in AMC theaters, or you can also ask me show me the movies in my nearby AMC theaters, or I can also ask something like show me the movies within 5 miles of my location. Let's say for example, with this 5 miles is very, very precise. And I won't be able to train the 5 with the 10 and 20s and etc. Right? So this 5 is an entity. Next time when I'm changing this 5 to a 10, automatically I should be able to pull out the nearby theaters which are 10 miles away. Same here. If you look at the entities, here theater is another entity. So the overall intent is showing a movie, and this is how the utterances and entities all get classified within the bot. Now I'm going to take you further to a basics, something called as intent and user intention. So intents can be classified as multiple things like casuals and with the business's perspective as well. Let's say I can add a lot of small talk, something like hi, bye, hello, how are you, how can I help you today, what's your name. So there are a lot of various affirmative and the negative intentions that we can pull together. That's something called as very, very casual. Small talks are called as very casual. Businesses is like you want to make any single transaction. Let's say, for example, when was Pulp Fiction released? If you look at it, I can name this intent by merely labeling get released here by title can be a single intent. When was Pulp Fiction released can be an utterances, and Pulp Fiction would be an entity. So this is how we like classify the intent with this casual and the business. Okay. So how does an entity qualify an intent? So entities are metadata about the business intents, as I've been telling before. This is like tagging a part of a speech. It can be like a noun, verb, and adjectives. When was Pulp Fiction released? So here the entity is Pulp Fiction, which is a movie name, whereas the intent is get released here by title. So to just recap the same intents, utterances, and entities, this can be classified into various set of sectors. Like as I told you before, show me the nearby movie theaters. So here, nearby movie theaters, I will have to automatically get the geolocation of a place and get the nearby of within 3 miles or 5 miles. That 5 and the 3 are going to be your entity classification. So we'll have to very clearly classify how do we define the entity within the particular intent. Next, I'm like going to talk about utterances. Utterances is like anything that a user sees. Pretty much, if you ask for training the use cases for various FAQs, this is what typically I go and talk with my customers. We have something called as frequently asked questions. This is one of the very, very ideal candidates for a chatbot. I ask a question and bot intelligently responds back with the various set of answers. Many set of questions can have a single answer. If you like look at it here, show me movie theaters nearby, or show me movie theaters in AMC. People can ask the same sentences in a various form of multiple fashions. That's what we call as utterances. So whenever you are training up a bot, you have to make sure that we cover a possible combination of utterances, so the bots are pretty trained well, so that it responds back intelligently using the NLP algorithms. Ideally speaking, we should attach minimum of 5 to 10 utterances for a given intent. This is how we like see. This is one of the best practices. If you have 5 to 10 utterances that you're giving for a single intent, the bot will be able to intelligently understand your conversation and will be able to intelligently respond back to your question. All right. Now, let me also give another simple use case of about NLP, NLU, and NLG scenario. If you like look at it, the chatbots doesn't only solve the FAQ problems. The NLP really solves the transactional problems as well. So say as I'm taking you to the previous banking transaction, if you look at it, I want to know, hey, can you check me my balance? So what this is that the like NLP gets these information and give it back to the backend transaction, and it really gets the data from the backend information so that you are able to get a meaningful information, not just mere only the FAQs. That like intelligent piece is what something we are seeing it pretty much in the industry right now. And the success of the NLP is also lies with the training of these intents and the entity recognition and with the intent classification. This is very, very, very important that we have to focus upon. I will also give the same example of a banking bot here. If you look at it, I want to get a nearby ATMs, right? So the moment I get the ATM location, there are various ways I can ask. Hey, show me the nearby ATM can be a simple use case, or list me the nearby ATMs, or show me the ATMs nearby 10 miles. Show me the ATMs nearby 20 miles. If you look at it, you won't be able to train all like show me the list of 10, 20, and 30. You will have to intelligently classify what is an intent you are going to do, and what are the entities you are going to define with the intent. Possibly ask with the maximum combination of utterances will make you a best practice and a best intelligent NLP units. So basically, to just summarize it here, NLP identify intents very well in advance, and entities are really, really powerful, and everything lies with the training. So training the intent with actual transcripts you can get from your social handles, and if not with your manufactured utterances. That means you'll have a predefined set of utterances. So a lot of bot engines right now who has a predefined set of questions where you'll be able to feed these set of questions ahead. As I told you before, we have got a lot of small talks that we have it in the platform. So these small talks can be like, hi, how are you? How old are you? What's your name? So these are some of the predefined small talks where you can train them and keep it ahead within your portal. So you don't have to really train them every time. And second, based on a business transaction, you should be able to pick and choose each and every one of the bot's use cases and solve those complex problems. I will just take one very interesting use cases that we are really solving out across the various industry, and the one that I'm going to show is for one of the leading restaurant who wants to show the loyalty points or ordering the food and etc. So here, if you look at it, there are like various ways I can like converse the bot. So the first conversation that I can show is something called as boxed conversation, and second thing I can show something called as unboxed conversation. So whenever we interact with the bot, we always say, hey, I'm Blue, as like Travis mentioned. I'm using the same statement here. I'm Blue, and these are all the list of possible ways of asking questions that you can ask. This is one of the best practices that we have seen as well. So menu can be a first option, location can be a second option, third can be loyalty points, and fourth can be what is my recommendation, fifth can be feedbacks and surveys. So these are all the possible use cases we can solve in a single bot. Instead of you have a 24/7 support and ask the same set of questions, I'm having a similar set of the same question I'm training for a restaurant bot, or you maybe booking a table as well. Okay. So now let me go into further details. Booking a table. So booking a table, if I need to correlate, I can ask in the various fashions. Can you book a table? Or book me a table? Or can you reserve me a table? There are various ways I can ask the same question. We call as utterances. So I have a well-defined utterances called as book a table. So here, book a table for two. So book a table is an intent, and book a table for two, the two number is an entity. So what happens is that intelligently my NLP algorithms will be able to classify the intents accordingly and pass it back to the backend so that it understands and generates the possible ways of responses and intelligently integrate into your backend environment so that it pulls you the relevant information of whatever that booking a table. Yes, it taps the booking table and it books the table for two people. This is the level of intelligence the chatbot can really bring in. All right. Now, apart from that, I'm also getting into further one of the other use cases where I call as I was looking at the recommendations. Hey, what are the good recommendations you have? So what really happens is that bot understands what are all my recommendation units from the backend engine, and it pulls those information and show it up in a carousel model. So the bot may not have to be always in a textual representation. The bot can show it in the form of a video. The response can be in the form of a GIF. Responses can be in the form of a text. It can be in the form of a music. It can be in the form of a free flow models as well. So the representation can be in a various format and with a various set of interactions. So the best practice is the carousel based models for the food menus would be very ideal. Now next feature comes as part of the feedbacks and the surveys. So survey is very critical because the chatbot is one of the best feature wherein you'll be able to get a survey. Imagine if I give you a big bunch of a book and ask you to fill up a survey, it is quite boring for people to read through all the questions and fill up a survey. Whereas chatbot will help you to journey one by one. Hey, one more step to go, two more steps to go. How was the food? How was the restaurant? Can you just give a rating or what is the recommendation for to your friend? I'll be able to guide my users one by one and able to collect all these information, integrate into your backend, and gives a meaningful survey. So this is something that we have to be very careful in terms of defining the bot, in terms of defining utterances, defining an entity, and how do you classify those intents as well. So in a nutshell, these are all some of the details that I can share you as a part of the NLP. Let me take you to the next interesting point, something called as bot metrics and how is your bot platform is performing. This is something that we have been asked by a lot of our customers in terms of, hey, how can you measure the bot metrics and how is my bot is be performing? What are all the various ways I can see how is my bot doing, right? These are some of the very interesting questions that we come across with a lot of people, and there are a lot of platforms in the industry right now that helps the customers to give a meaningful insights of the chatbot conversations that my users are having. Let's say, for example, I give one meaningful information stating in the morning in the backend how many intents that my business is able to solve and what is the goal completion rate. let me just take a same restaurant example. I want to know how many people have booked a table today using my chatbot. Whether my chatbot has really solved the business problem. You will be able to pull these information from the dashboard, from the market leading analytics insight chatbot tools. You'll be able to pull these goal completion rate. So you'll be able to classify, hey, I've got like 10 tables have been booked today and 40 surveys have been conducted. These are all some of the goal completion that we can classify in the bot metrics. There are a lot of bot metrics that we can show it up across the board. And there are a lot of tools in the industry as well that helps to give what is the number of transactions that are really happened, what number of sessions, number of in messages, number of out messages, my goal completion, what are the most frequently used intents and what are those classifications are there, what are those sentiments, and then the list goes on and on. So there are like various bot metrics that needs to be captured else. Whatever the NLP has been performed will become in task, because you are not technically giving any sort of insight out of how the chatbot has been performing. Unless and until you measure your bot, you won't be able to improvise the bot. And there is one more very, very interesting topic on the chatbot, as Travis touched upon a bit, unhandled message, unhandled conversations. You will have to periodically get these unhandled conversations, these dashboards, but that means the backend bot metrics tools capture the unhandled messages and able to give it back to the backup people, so that you have to periodically train your bot to make sure those unhandled messages are properly trained, so your bot becomes much more intelligent on and on. Now let me just go to the next slide.
Hey, thanks, Gopi. So today we talked about copywriting etiquette, the do's and don'ts of chatbot writing. We've also talked about the other side of the equation, how chatbot uses NLP to decide what copy to display for the user. So there's definitely a lot more to talk about, but for now you should have a baseline to write good chatbots to do your bidding and reap the rewards of engaged visitors wanting to interact with that chatbot. Earlier I talked about some of the benefits of chatbots. One key area is automating repetitive tasks for the human workforce. This is especially powerful function because it's enabling people to spend their time on meaningful work, solving the bigger problems. And businesses too are gaining huge traction in their resource allocation. One of the biggest challenges is balancing an annual budget. When you have a tool to perform multiple functions, it alleviates a lot of the logistical and financial stress that companies are facing. And chatbots, as we know, are big. So big that they're changing the system of our world's operation. Chatbots are streamlining processes on a macro scale, and they're connecting people together in ways that had never been seen before. I mentioned earlier that the key difference between your bot and the competition is in your brand story. How you engage with your users is going to set a precedent for the good or the bad things to come. So without a clear, defined strategy in your chatbot function, you might find yourself in the dust. The good news is that you've just been given the keys to successful bot copy. With cost savings in the billions, even having a chatbot has put you well ahead of the curve. So with that, we'll take some time to answer a Q&A session. Just a reminder to go ahead and put your questions in the question box in your control panel.
Thank you, Travis and Gopi. That was great. We do have several questions to go over. Let's start off with this one. How do I know what kind of personality I should give my bot?
Hey, so that's a great question. How do you know what personality to give your bot? Your bot persona really depends on what your brand story is, and your brand story is driven by what your buyer personas are. So if you know what kind of audience that you're catering toward, identifying what their pain points, the way that they speak and talk, is going to really inform how your bot persona goes. And there's a lot of different parts involved in building a bot persona, and we've created here a process in Piger, looking at everything from the core strengths and qualities, looking at the different types of emotions that you're going to express, and just understanding that bot personas are very dynamic in that sense.
Thank you, Travis. We have another one here. How do you measure the chatbot's performance? Gopi, can you answer this one?
Yeah, I think I've covered in the previous slide, but let me just reiterate. Every chatbots that you're building it up has a backend metrics mechanism tools, such as Chatbase is one ideal tool that has been very popular in the market. When we integrate the Chatbase with your front-end tools, you'll be able to get the maximum amount of insights as possible. That will help you to measure how your bot has been performing, whether my bot is able to solve my maximum intents, and whether my bot is able to solve the maximum goals, what is my goal retention rate, and what is my intent achievement rate, as well as I'll be able to get the list of number of messages in and out, and more importantly, I will be able to even get the messages that are handled and not handled. And not to just stop with that, the bot also will be able to capture the conversations that my bot is able to converse. That means that technically we call it logs. You'll be able to see the logs on the backend system of the like dashboard systems, so that you'll be able to go and look at how my bot is able to converse with my customers, and what are the insights and meaningful information that I can capture from those bots. You'll be able to get all these informations from the backend dashboard. This is how you measure your bot performance and bot metrics.
Okay, great. I got another one for you, Gopi, about NLP. It says, what are the leading NLP as a service products available in the market, and what would be your recommendation?
Good question. So there are a lot of leading NLP as a service providers in the market. There are a few being like Rasa is one classic example that we can talk about. Louis is performing really well. Lex is performing really well. These are some of the NLPs that we can seriously think through if you are making any NLP progresses. And if you look at overall chatbot as a platform, there are good chatbot platform providers also available in the industry right now. It's just like Dialogflow is one classic example, or IBM Watson also has a bot building platform, and even Bluefish is another platform that we can talk. There are multiple set of platforms available in the industry that has got an inbuilt NLP engines that comes with that. But as an NLP, as a whole, if you ask me, Lex is performing reasonably well. Louis is performing very well, and those are some of the stuff that I can recommend as well at this point of time.
Okay, thank you, Gopi. Well, that is all we have for today. Thank you guys for spending time with us on your Thursday afternoon. If you have any further questions or something just pops in your head, feel free to reach out. We would love to hear from you and any feedback as well. Also wanted to remind you that you will be receiving a PDF of our presentation and a link to the recording here probably tomorrow, if not on Monday. Also, don't forget to check your spam folder. Sometimes it'll end up in there. We want to thank you once again for spending your time with us. We hope you found this valuable. Everyone have a great weekend and a wonderful holiday. Thanks.